Is it warocracy or autocracy? Or what type of crazy is that? Except crazy.
News making the headlines.
Black Maria is to carry criminals, treasure looters that are in government today.
Sometimes it gets confrontational.
Slap you in the face.
Excuse me, don't put words into my mouth.
Whatever it is that will bring our military to disrepute, I said to hell
On
with it.
Core Digest,
I want to know why I should be believing them.
every weekday, we bring all of these together and take them to the court of public opinion,
Everybody has a right in Nigeria.
where you are the judge.
And thank you so very much for staying because of the program today. It's still Core Digest exclusively on Core TV News. And like I said before the break, we'll be looking at a topic that is quite relevant to a whole lot of Nigerians and of course very important to the current administration, who said that he is prepared and ready to fight corruption headlong. And that's why we see on the pages of the front, on the dailies really, on how he's willing to probe officials who have looted the country's treasury. And the topic today is the war against corruption. How ready are the enforcers? And you know, before I introduce the guest on the program, I'd just like you to take you through the words of Frederick Douglass, who is an African-American writer, and also a statesman, who said that neither persons nor property will be safe if justice is denied. That is one. Poverty is enforced where ignorance prevails, and where any one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade others. And that's why we want to look at this issue on corruption, how some people have single-handedly robbed this nation of its treasury at the expense of the masses who are at the receiving end. Isn't that very wicked and sad? And that's why the president seems to get a lot of support on his current fight against corruption. But beyond his willingness and readiness, who are those who would help him fight this corruption? They are the enforcers. They are is the system, really. It has to do with the judiciary, the police, the anti-graft agencies. Are they really ready to fight corruption at this time? All right, the guest on the show today is Bosun Oshifowora, who is a legal practitioner. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
It's nice having you on the program today. All right, let me pose the first question to you. How ready are the enforcers to fight corruption?
Well, I think I'll start from the words of the former Vice President, Abubakar Atiku. He said if the head is rotten, the whole body would definitely follow. So if you flip it, if the head is good, then the whole body too will actually be in sync with the head. Now, we have seen the body language of the president. He's very ready, he's very willing, and everybody knows his competence. We've seen him before, and he's now back, and everybody knows what he can do. And somehow, if you look at events, I was going through the papers this morning, and we saw things like civil servants in Abuja selling off their properties, you know, because their income doesn't commensurate with, you know, the price of the properties where they live in. Now, so that is a strong language, okay? We've seen heads of parastatals resign. We've seen some asked to go. And so everybody has seen the wave is there, the momentum is there. Now, but for the entire system, well, let's say this first. Fighting corruption is not a one-day thing. It's something that's going to go on for as long as the monster is still there. But so far, I think it's been good. But for the enforcers, you want to talk about the police?
Yes.
How ready they are? Well, 2 days ago, we saw the IGP. He was doing the whole community policing campaign. They got all the obas, got all the relevant people. And I think the drive is there, and they're doing well with it, because he's making everybody realize that it's not a one-man show. Everybody has to be. It's an all-inclusive thing. Everybody has to participate. That's why he brought all the traditional rulers. And I think they're making a good stride. And let's just see how it goes.
All right. Now, with the body language of the president, who is saying the corruption will have no say in the country as it is, but we see the governor of Ekiti State is really not convinced. It's just saying the president is simply playing to the gallery. What do you have to say to that?
Oh, well, I think Mr. Fayose he likes to be in the news for the flimsiest of reasons. I read his report. He said that all the president is doing is talking on the pages of newspapers. But we have also read other reports where we've seen people voluntarily resign because of what is happening. I mean, these are people who sat tight, who never wanted to, even in the face of the worst of allegations, they didn't flinch. But now they just voluntarily resign. That is not playing to the gallery. That's a definite position. That's a definite stance. And we know the president. So everybody knows him. In fact, I read some other comments or commentaries where they said, what is the business of Mr. Fayose saying this thing? That is he afraid that he should just sit down? That the train will soon get to his own bus stop. That's if he has anything to fare anyway. But I don't think what he has said is anything to go by. I always take what he says. I mean, it was the same person. We saw all his adverts and advertorials against the same man. So I think he has a lot to fear. So he's just that's his own way of just trying to calm himself down.
All right.
So, but really, whatever he has said doesn't hold water.
Okay. And do you see the anti-graft agencies as really ready to fight corruption? The EFCC.
Well, I said it on this program some time back that they need to fund these agencies. I go to EFCC a lot, and what EFCC used to be some 9 years back is a shadow of what it is now. And with proper funding, I think they will do well. But they need to be funded and trained and retrained for this job, given this wave, because I think their hands will be full with what we have seen, with the revelations coming out, trillions. You know, before we used to talk about millions, then billions. They're now trillions. They're now no longer naira, now it's dollars. Now, so if you're going to pursue people who are stealing trillions of dollars, then I think you'll have your hands full. So definitely a lot of funding has to go into these agencies, the anti-graft agencies, ICPC, EFCC, even the police, in order to ensure that they work effectively and they do a proper job of prosecution.
Okay, now while funding is one thing, the other thing is the fact that do the anti-graft agency even carry out their job the way they should? And now the reason I'm asking this question is the recent ruling at the Lagos Federal High Court by Justice Mohammed Yunus, who said that the EFCC would have to pay a damage of 10 million naira, and others who were involved in the case will pay 7 million naira for unlawfully arresting a suspected money launderer. So if the EFCC themselves are supposed to pay damage, isn't this really going to bring down their morale to fight corruption?
No. You see, justice is not a one-sided thing. Justice is supposed to be given to everybody. Justice is supposed to be for all. Now, in the course of carrying out their duties, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 violation of rights there. Now, it is not for the persons whose right is violated to sit down and just cry wolf. Now, go to the court, assert your rights, then let the court pronounce on it. That is part of the justice we're talking about. If the EFCC had gone ahead with that thing and the guy didn't challenge it, then he would just be crying in his house and everybody would still be waiting for justice and justice. So it's part of the justice system. It's part of what we're campaigning for. It's part of the change that we're looking forward to. You know, there's a way people see EFCC. In fact, I have a funny story I tell people. Sometime in 2006, I was there for a matter, and there was this other lawyer who was much my senior then. He had a client who was locked in. But the lawyer was so afraid. He wasn't a Lagos lawyer. He was so afraid of even getting in. He was always coming to EFCC every day for 2 weeks. So I met his client inside, and the guy told me that his lawyer is always coming, but he's afraid of getting inside the office. I mean, that's what EFCC used to be way back. But now people know that, okay, fine, if they violated my right, then I can go to the court to challenge. So it shows that even the courts are ready to give justice where it is deserving.
Yeah, but fine, it's good that the law court is being fair to every individual regardless of the position you hold. And we saw that coming from the judge, who is saying that the EFCC, regardless of the power they have, should not be intoxicated in carrying out their functions.
Exactly.
But in a situation where they're expected to help the president fight corruption, and they do not go through the right process, because that is what they're suffering now. That's the damages they're paying that they
That
didn't
is just one
get,
case.
They didn't get a warrant. We saw that happen with the Kashamu case when they wanted to extradite him.
That was NDLEA.
NDLEA. Okay,
Okay,
NDLEA,
you're talking
part of
about
the agencies,
right.
really. And so if they keep having this brick walls coming, okay, you didn't do this, so your work can be carried out, you didn't do this, then what does that really spell on how well they can fight corruption?
I'm not holding brief for EFCC, but I mean specifically EFCC, but it was the same EFCC who almost or did get a conviction for Ibori, and everybody was like, he's witch hunting, eventually until the UK courts did the same thing and convicted him. So you see, there will be a few high-handedness here and there, maybe by some officials, but EFCC is a reputable organization, and they know their onions. They know how to go about. There will be one or two skirmishes. Even in the course of our daily routine, we do sleep. Those kind of, then this kind of judgment too is a wake-up call on how to go about the thing. You know, I talked earlier about funding them, not just to give them money or to increase their salary, but it will go into their training and retraining and, you know, bringing their understanding to certain things that, okay, this is how, even like the laws are changing, this is the new position, this is how you go about it. So definitely the whole funding will take care of things like this. So there will be slips.
All right. Well, especially there wouldn't be sleep, and we see a lot of things happen recently. Even the bailiff of the industrial court had to go himself to the Federal Ministry of Finance to protest a law that a judgment they've gotten just to enforce. So is this what we want to keep seeing, where bailiff would have to go there to enforce the rights themselves?
Well, there will be slips, but if you want to judge them based on this one or two issues, I think it will be unfair on these agencies. They work on a daily basis, and we see, I mean, some of us practitioners know what they do, and we see the results of, you know, their job, and we hold them in high esteem, and we know that they are ready so far. But the biggest room in the world is a room for improvement. It can always be better than what they've done. So, well, they're doing well so far, but it can be better than this.
Okay. Do you think the looters of the Nigerian Treasury are really scared of our enforcement agencies? The judiciary, the police, do you think they're really scared, or they're threatened at all?
Well, with this new administration, I think there's some jitters sent down the spines of certain persons. I mean, from what we read and what we see every day, because, well, maybe a few years back or some time back, the impunity was so high on the part of the looters. But now that is not the case. The body language of the president, and also what we see, people are turning in loots voluntarily. They don't want trouble. They don't want, I mean, they just, it's all about, I was talking with a friend, and, you know, we're discussing this issue of all those people that are stealing money, that if they take them to the courts, that what will happen? That will they really get
the money?
The money, and I think it depends on how the administration actually wants to. In fact, somebody was of the opinion that once they get to court now, the higher SANs, the SANs, and all these things, and before you know it, is one injunction or one adjournment over the other, and at the end of the day, nothing will come out of this thing. But, well, we've seen that in the past. But from what we're seeing also, I think it's not going to be business as usual. But on the other hand too, apart from financially empowering all these agencies, there's one more thing that needs to be done. Some of our laws, they actually need, there's need for reform. Because you still have laws where someone stole billions and the fine for it is either 6 months in jail or 750,000, or some even as low as, if you read some of these laws, you find out that there's some fines that are as low as 10 naira for serious offences. And you wonder, I mean, in this age, 10 naira, you hardly even come across 10 naira. So I think in that realm also, our laws actually need to, there's need for the government to actually do some reforms concerning the laws, concerning the penalties attached to some of these offences. There's high need for that. So that, I mean, if I know, because penalties are basic deterrents for people who have stolen or people who also intend to steal. Because as you're taking care of those, in fact, the way you deal with those who stole determines what will go down to
the next person.
The person who intends to steal. If I mean, for example, China, something as simple as tax evasion carries a penalty as high as death penalty. Now, so if I know that just not paying tax, they could kill me, I could go to jail for life, then how much is tax? Let me just give them their money, and I have enough money. Tax is 5-10% of what you earn. Just give it out and let me stay on the right path and enjoy my money that I made legitimately. So that's what I say. But there's need for reform.
All right. Now, in law, is there a provision in the law that says that for people who do not obey court's order, is there any punishment for them?
When you don't obey court orders, you're in contempt of court. And the court has every right to impose maximum sanction on you. The laws are clear. We have laws. Our laws are sufficient so far. Maybe little reform here and there concerning some penalties or some sanctions, but our laws are okay. There was something we were taught in school, that there are no bad laws. You only have bad people. The laws are always adequate. Maybe over time, fine, there's always need for reforms once in a while, but the laws are always there. The laws are clear.
All right. Now, while the laws are there, while the laws are always there to safeguard people's action, we see the 1991 retrenched workers of NPA who got the judgment of the Supreme Court for NPA to pay all they owe these workers. But 24 years after, the NPA refused to implement the judgment of the Apex. Is there a need for another court, like a world court, to help enforce all of these things?
Oh, well, there's been rot in the system. We've had this systemic rot. Fine, there's been some brazen challenge against court orders by certain individuals who have also the backings of, the government, but I don't think that's going to continue. That's why you see a lot of people are now coming up like, okay, fine, we had this at some point. These people stopped us from enforcing this. Fine, corruption is not just stealing of money. In fact, you find that over time, those who stole money ensured that they mess up the system so that things won't function very well. Now, that's why you have things like this. But now, with this wave of change and the body language of the president, I think things are beginning to return to normal. We've had a very funny state of affairs in the past couple of years, but I think things are changing for the better now.
Okay, let me just take your mind back to the conference that took place in the country in 2005. We had the National Political Reform Conference, and the conference resolved that there should be special courts should be set up for prosecution of cases emanating from corrupt practices, and such cases should not last more than 90 days when it has to do with corrupt cases. And secondly, the conference also recommended that authorities should investigate and confiscate corruptly acquired wealth of past rulers and bring them to book. Now, the very interesting one is that the war against corruption should be reintroduced, and EFCC and the Code of Conduct should be made, and there should be screening of members who want to take up political offices, candidates who want to aspire. And that happened back then in 2005. And at the 2015 elections, we saw some candidates who had very funny stories backing them, allegations. And so the question that begs for answer is, why didn't this come to play since it was recommended as far back as 2005?
Well, I'll speak for and against what you just said.
Okay.
Now, in case of allegations, where allegations are thrown up, particularly against people vying for political positions, one has to be very careful. And also, there are agencies where you can go. For example, if I have strong feelings and I have documents to show that Mr. A is a fraudulent person and is vying for maybe an executive position or a political position, then there are agencies I can go and drop my petition, and those agencies are saddled with the responsibility of actually going after such persons, verifying the authenticity of the petition, and then they do their work. Now, so we cannot rely on just allegations. You just say Mr. A, because he drives a big car, he must have stolen it. That's not enough. We'll have to, if we want to go by that, then I don't think that will augur well for the system. Now, but the basic thing you have to do is get the appropriate agencies, do the necessary petitions or write-ups, then they will investigate. Then upon investigation, then they will know how to go about it to the end. Now, but you're quoting the conference. I'm coming from that. So allegations are not enough to just say, or you just look at someone and I feel, okay, these things are gold and you must have stolen it. Or where did you get this? No, that's not what we're talking about. But you see, on the flip side too, I talked about reforms, laws, and all these things. There's need for us also to step up our game in some areas, because, like you said also, that's why I said I'll argue for and against. Now, there are some that, even to the very ordinary person, we know that, oh, this person is not capable of this thing. But sometimes too, our society, we celebrate funny things. We don't challenge, unlike in other climes where, if, for example, we're neighbors and I look at what you're driving and I look at how how you relate or how you do things, and I feel your income doesn't commensurate with this. Now, somehow, in other societies, they raise an alarm and police can come in for questioning. They can ask you, what's the source of this? But we still don't have that yet. And I think we need to get up to that level where people can be challenged. I say a lot of young people that are still in school, and they do all kinds of shady things. And they bring cars, some even rent houses, and everybody celebrates them. Now, so we need to get up to a level where people will be challenged on things like this. So that's part of the anti-corruption crusade, which we have to embrace, which the society must step up to. Everything can be left to the president or the agencies. That's why I actually commend the IGP when he came up with, the community policing thing. And, everybody, you have to watch your neighbor. You have to be your brother's keeper. You have to be able to, raise an alarm where you feel that something is amiss. So I think with that, as part of the reforms, then it's a welcome development.
Okay, you're saying there's a need for a special court to handle corrupt people.
You see, before you put in place a special court, then you have to, this is a democracy. It's not military. Now, you have to go through stages. Then the courts have to be backed up by the law. That's why I said earlier, our laws are so far adequate. The courts are there. It's all about empowering the system. There's nothing wrong with the courts. They're adequate. Maybe you need more personnel, fine. Or maybe you need a little bit of reform on the law. But to get special courts, to the ones we already have, perhaps so many
probably
courts.
Handle a special case of corrupt Nigerians who, within 90 days, they could quickly give us judgment on what
Maybe,
they would do.
like they did for the electoral reform. Before you have a case where you take electoral petitions to the tribunal, and the governor or some persons, occupying the executive positions, they would have finished their tenure, and you're still dragging the case. In fact, some will be on their second term now. So when they looked at that, they had to come up with a reform that come. electoral petitions must be sorted out within a certain period. So I guess the same thing can be put up for corruption, particularly in cases where you know that this person or these persons have looted so much. So in order to recover the funds, then we can. But the laws are there. If you check the EFCC laws, it talks about forfeiting. Forfeiture of properties and what have you, where you are found guilty and all that. So the laws are there. You don't need new laws. You don't need new courts to come. All you need to do is strengthen the system, and you will see that these things will fall in place.
Whose responsibility would it be to strengthen the system?
The executive. Basically, you know, the budget is on them. Well, all the arms actually need to work together, because the legislative arm too needs to, like, okay, this is what is needed in this realm. Let's quickly pass these laws to make sure that everything falls in place. All the three arms need to actually work together. But the bulk falls more on, or at the doorstep of the executive to actually empower the system, if they're really, really serious about this anti-corruption crusade.
Okay. Now, we see the executive very, very interested in fighting corruption. And of course, it's a democratic system. You know, usually Nigerians would want to play their minds back to the Buhari of when he was the head of state, how he did a lot of things, how he made things happen rightly. And now we see him coming up with that attitude in this regime. And with the democratic system in Nigeria, with the way things have to happen according to due process, do you see his war against corruption leaving, as in seeing the light of the day?
Yeah, but wait, I need to stress something. That is a democracy does not mean that corruption should thrive. Fine, he cannot do the military style, the Gestapo style of, you know, you just go and hound people, you don't care about their fundamental rights. That can't happen anymore. But the best he can do is to come out strong. Then, you know, everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, if you have a leader that has a strong character, it doesn't mean he must hold your neck. Now, but he comes out, you can see through him, you can see that, okay, this man is not corrupt. I mean, this is somebody who came and said, okay, half of my salary, I'll take half because of, you know, the impending economic problems, right? And he comes on also and says, okay, these are my assets, this is this, and he puts everything in place. Because he's a man of strong character, there is that tendency that if people will fall behind him, people will line up behind him. So that's what we have in this man. And invariably, everything will begin to fall in place. Now, it's not going to happen tomorrow or next year. But with the way it's going, if it continues like this, everything will fall in place. That's what I see in this case.
All right. What can you say about the body language of the president to the report of the 2014 National Conference report?
I have my reservations about the conference. In fact, I have my reservations about the constitution of the conference. That's the people who constituted, just a bunch of elderly people and with, you know, deep-seated interests, ethnic biases and all that. From the beginning, I didn't like the entire composition. And when I read part of some of the things they came up with, I mean, these are things that are not pointing us forward. They're pointing us backward more than forward. Now, so when the president came and he didn't really take to the report of the conference, then I wasn't shocked.
Well, you know, interesting enough, the report of the conference I have here on anti-corruption says the confirmed result that they also switched to what the 2005 report said, that a special court should be able to handle corruption cases in the country. And they said in light of undue prolongation in the trials and prosecution of corruption cases in the regular courts. It says, now, do you see this as assets for this current administration? If the 2014 said there should be a special court, because to actually avoid the prolongation of cases of corrupt leaders, let's have this court who would handle these cases. This is coming from the 2014 conference. And so, you know, it's actually ironic when we saw the past administration as very corrupt, not wanting impunity to strive, and actually accepting this kind of reports of the conference. Don't you see it as assets for this current administration who is saying corruption will have no way?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, special courts for special corrupt cases, I'm not a fan of that. But if that is going to help, well, we can take to it. That's my own opinion on it. But really, I feel the courts that we have are adequate. All you need to do is just strengthen the people. So now, concerning the conference also, it's not the entire report that one has to discard. There are some other things you would take. There's some other things you can actually leave out. But as far as, well, if we want to look at it from the angle of electoral tribunal, then you now have a corrupt practices tribunal. And if it's going to work fine in the interest of the country, then it's not a bad idea.
All right. Now, these days we see Nigerians play two mouths. This part says Buhari should continue and find the thieves who looted the treasury, arrest them, confiscate them. And we see another part saying, don't waste your time on looking for thieves who redid the country economy. Just face governance. Where should the government really face at this time?
Well, I think both arguments are plausible. First of all, if you leave thieves to just go unchallenged, what signal are you sending to the present occupants of the position? That's one. Now, because the way you treat people who have gone before will send a signal to those who are coming behind. Now, so I feel that there's nothing wrong with the anti-corruption campaign. I mean, I think it was Alhaji Lai Mohammed that said that the money missing is about 14 trillion. I was saying something about trillions and trillions, you know. I mean, that's so much an amount that you cannot ignore. I think that's more than what Greece is looking for to get back on their feet. Now, so we cannot allow that to go. But, you see, for those arguing otherwise, I'm not in support of leaving those who have looted the treasury to go. But there's a part of their campaign that the government actually needs to look at. Because what they're saying, there was some committee, like, not a panel, but some individuals, like some citizens who went to see the president.
The peace committee.
The peace committee.
Yes, I was going to come to that. What's your interpretation of
well,
this?
The major thing they said, which I think the government or the present administration needs to start looking at, is the fact that you must chart an economic course for this country. I was listening to the news yesterday, and they said that the president or the presidency told the Senate to hang on budget for 2016, that their focus, they actually want to refocus, that the focus should be on employment, right? And if, as of now, this is August, the Senate is yet to start doing anything on budget for next year, then even the one for 2015 is practically dead. Because what I see with this administration is that they are yet to chart an economic course for us. Businesses are waiting, people are hanging on what is happening. Then the CBN is not helping with funny policies on today, this is how much dollar you should take, tomorrow, you know. It looks like economically the present administration is yet to find its feet on the economic direction for the country. I think that's what the Peace Committee was saying, that it's not all about chasing thieves. Now, that's one part. This one you will do probably till the end of this administration. But set us on an economic path. Let's know what we need to do. Let's know the focus. Let's know.
I think he's doing that by the side.
Well, with our ministers, he said next month. Let's see when the ministers come, then we know. But really, businesses are hanging based on this government because there's no path. There's no direct part, no direct economic part yet from this government. That's why some of those people are actually crying that you can't use all your life to chase corrupt people. I mean, we have life outside this thing now, and you can't make it a sole agenda. Governance is more than that. Governance is multifaceted, and you have to take care of everything with the same passion and with the same vigor, not just holding on to one thing like it's the World Cup, then you allow every other thing to suffer.
Now, coming to ministers, the publicity secretary of the party, in person of Lai Mohammed, said that the reason why the president has not been able to appoint his ministers because he's rarely taken his time to appoint the right people in power. And interesting enough, we see some people who Nigerians have perceived to be the new next ministers that the president will appoint now being alleged of different corruption cases. So if you were in the shoes of the president, what would you do?
Well, the president cannot take his time forever. Then he cannot find, I don't know how many ministers he wants to.
He's looking at 19 ministers.
19. You cannot find 19 Jesus Christ. You will have to make do with what you have. If he's looking for 19 saints, he will never find. Not in this climate. Now, but you will have to make do with what you have. Now, then, concerning the question you raised, that they were looking at some potential ministers. And
well, Nigerians perceive that these people would likely be ministers, and there's been a lot of...
Well, unfortunately, or as we will put it, our system, our justice system, our criminal justice system says that allegations are not enough. Somebody has to, you have to prove that this person is guilty. So until proven guilty, the person can, mere allegations are not enough to say this person cannot go forward to do this. So our system says that until a court of law, a competent court of law, proves you guilty of a crime, allegations will always remain allegations, and they are not strong enough to actually knock someone off such appointments.
Which brings us back to the system of the law. The president is pressed for time to appoint ministers. There are some people alleged to have done some things, and it's the same court that takes forever to handle a case. Is it really a good point to say, okay, the president should wait, let's still see and vindicate this person if he's corrupt or not, or if it's just a mere allegation, before you appoint this person, even though he's so good to be your minister? Now, that brings us back to the law in Nigeria. How can the president succeed in his quest with this system?
The president needs to appoint ministers. If you have a graph,
some of his ministers have been, not his ministers now, some of his perceived potential ministers are being alleged of some things. And because he's bringing to Nigerians a government that is of people who are not entirely safe, but of course perceived uprighted and stuff. So wouldn't it be shooting himself in the foot if at the end of the day the law drags and the person who is already a minister and is appointed by Buhari is said to be corrupt? And isn't that going to make the whole case a lot more complex? Okay.
Appoint ministers first. If people have allegations against them, let them channel it through the right agencies. Then let the agencies prosecute. It's as simple as that.
How long?
That should not hold us back.
Okay.
That should not hold us back.
So when the agencies persecute, how about the issue of
until you are innocent until proven guilty?
Yes.
Until the court of law says this man is guilty, you cannot. That's why.
And until the court of law says till the tenure ends, then the tenure ends. Then
no. That's not the way.
So when
that's not the way the law works. No, at all.
4 years is just it's just a bit of time. Then the 4 year ends, and the person has been minister, and he's saying, okay, the court has finally said through the process of the law.
His work as minister, you judge him first.
Okay.
You put somebody as minister of a particular ministry. He has work to do. We will judge him based on what he's doing there. Then also, when you bring allegations, anybody can come up with anything. And you know, politicians, people will throw up all kinds of things. They will tell you, he took my wife, he took my money, he took this. That's why you cannot rely on, for all you care, some people just don't like your face. And if they see that you want to go higher, they just come up with, no, I used to know her. She's this, she's that, she's this. Now, so will I now say because somebody raised some flimsy thing, then I'll now drop you? When we haven't gone through the process, we have processes here that, I mean, they can take you through, and they'll do, not even, I mean, they'll do a check on you first before they appoint you. Now, so there are agencies who do that. There are parastatals started with that responsibility. And once you're cleared, you're cleared. But if the people feel very aggrieved, then they can go to court. Now, so since they are going with maybe a single point or a few points against this person you've appointed a minister, then so be it. Let the court judge. You cannot be a judge in your own case. Now, so it's for the courts to decide. Unfortunately, for such people, the position of the law is clear. That except a court of competent jurisdiction convicts someone of a crime, the person is innocent until proven guilty. Where the court pronounces otherwise, or where the court says, okay, this person is guilty, then he has to step down as minister. But that is not enough to say this person should not be appointed until the court says otherwise. Except you want, well, in some other crimes, where you have certain allegations like that, well, the person may say, okay, until I'm done with my court issues, then I won't take up this ministerial position, but I don't think we have reached that level in this country.
Okay. You know, like the Animal Farm, it says all humans are equal, but some are more equal than the other.
Well.
Yes. Now, you know, the same Supreme Court I talked about making a judgment for 24 years that the NPA refused to implement. We see the same Supreme Court make some judgments and those laws were enforced. So the question is, why is there a way to, why do some persons or institutions assume some powers above some court judgments, even the apex court, really?
That's why I said we need to strengthen the system.
But they are strengthened enough to hack some other people down.
No.
But some people, does it mean that some institutions are even much more strengthened than the court itself?
Okay, for example, this is what happens.
Okay.
Where you have a judgment against a parastatal, and you have some people in the executive and that have strong interest in such cases, enforcement may be very difficult. It is not supposed to be like that, but it may be very difficult in such circumstances. And that's why I'm saying that we need to strengthen the system. We need solid system. We need solid leadership, like we have. I just told you about people. I mean, we read in the papers about people resigning. People who ordinarily wouldn't leave their position. But because of the wave that is coming, they looked at it that, you know what, wisdom, I think there's...
Wisdom is profitable to direct.
Wisdom is profitable to direct. So in this, I would just err on the side of caution and just move on and not be swept away with this. Now, so that boils down to leadership. The man hasn't said much. I mean, we have a president, he doesn't really talk much, but you can see his body language, you can see the action is taken in some, instances. So the message is clear to even the deaf and the blind. Now, so that's why everything is falling in place. So when you have such brazen impunity against court judgments, judgment coming from the apex court, you find that that's a product of a distorted or a corrupt system where institutions are being bastardized, where there is no respect for institutions. Now, but what we need to do now is to revive institutions so that when something like that comes, then you know that automatically things are enforced without much effort coming into it. The system is supposed to work, but because there's been breaches here and there by some people who are powerful, there was a time in this country some individuals were more powerful than even the government or certain institutions, which is not supposed to be. Now, so where you have things like that, it's going to be very hard for life to run its course. Things are supposed to run ordinarily, but where you have people with vested interest in certain things, that's where you have such brazen impunity, against things that are supposed to just run ordinarily. Now, but with the way things are going, we need to strengthen institutions. We need to bring about reforms that will help and put things in the right order. Speaking
of those who likely pretend to be even more powerful than the system, the same people live in the same system. So for you, who do you really think gives the power to the cabals themselves? Everything rises and falls on leadership. If the leader is perceived as a weakling, people will do anyhow. It's like the home. It starts from the home. I grew up in a home where once my father comes in fact, once you hear the horn, you just start arranging things, because you know when the lion of the tribe of the house is coming. Now, so that's the way it works too in governance. Now, if the leader is perceived, or if it's seen as a strong person, or is a strong character, naturally people will act right. But if you come into the house, if the head of the house comes in and it says everything upside down and he goes in and just sleeps, everybody will be like, okay, maybe that's how Daddy likes it. And before you know it, people will graduate from ordinary misdemeanor to something more serious. So that's the way it happens to everybody. So the system empowers the cabals themselves. The system actually threw them up. And before you know it, they grew bigger than the system. But this time around, everything is changing. All right, let's just take this quick break on the show and we'll be right back with more. And after the break, we'll open the phone lines for you to be a part of this conversation by dialing the number. Join us after this break and we'll be right back.
Some pundits believe that as long as the political system is driven by selected few, corruption may be difficult to fight.
Be careful about what you say. I am not the only politician. Even if I've wronged anyone, it's time to forgive me.
Political Arena every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. and a repeat broadcast every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. And Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.